So my name is Jeremy Michaelson. I actually live in the borough of Bury, Prestwich in the borough of Bury, and I represent the Jewish community, in this case, of Greater Manchester. Well, where do I go on pilgrimage? Strictly speaking, we actually don't have set pilgrimages in the Jewish faith. We used to. When the temple stood in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago, we would be expected to travel there 3 times a year. Passover in April, Pentecost in June, and Tabernacles in October, the Harvest Festival. After the Romans destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, we no longer have, strictly speaking, a place of worship. However, when I do make regular visits to Israel, I always try and visit the Western Wall in Jerusalem, which is the Western Wall is the one place in Jerusalem where the old temple, it's the last remaining part of the old temple. Well, both in our case, both our daughters, well, live in Israel these days, but I went beforehand because Israel is the place where God told Abraham to leave his place of his nativity and to go to a land where God would show him, and of course that was eventually the land of Israel. So Israel plays a central role in being Jewish. There are lots of things that happen that, as far as the Jewish religion, that can't happen outside the land of Israel. So that's why Israel is so important, and that's why it's wonderful to visit it as often as possible. When I visit Israel, after checking in at the hotel, of course, I usually make sure that within a day or two of our arrival, we visited the Western Wall. That's the most important thing. But I will visit other places of religious interest as well. Some of the ancient synagogues there, the old city of Jerusalem, which has been, the Jewish quarter has been restored, so I visit that, and some of the synagogues there, and parts of Israel that I haven't been to yet. Much of the Galilee, for example, where there's lots of places of religious interest. What makes the journey sacred and special is really, it's something that maybe people will find hard to understand. Jewish people generally live in small communities as minorities in another country. Israel is the one country in the world which is where Jews are in the majority. And therefore the rhythm of life and the way in which things are done is the way in which I live and the way I do things. And so I can stop somebody in the street and ask where a synagogue is, and even if he doesn't go himself, he'll know where it is. I know that in most of the restaurants in Jerusalem are kosher restaurants, so I know there's no problem with eating there. And it's this sort of thing. It's the things that other people might take for granted, but outside of the land of Israel, Jews can't take for granted. And I think that's what really makes it special. The land of Israel, and for me the state of Israel, are both important to me, because I believe that with the rebirth of the modern state of Israel in 1948, we are seeing the beginning of the final redemption that will one day lead to the arrival of the Messiah, which Jews have been praying, which we pray for every day, and that the whole world will recognize the existence of God. Won't have to necessarily be Jewish, but they will recognize and accept the existence of God and will live according to the basic laws that God has set for all nations. So that's why I think the land of Israel and the state of Israel are very, very important. And we live in times that are unusual and times that, that our grandparents would have only dreamed about.